has the ability to make strategic decisions and use communication effectively to mobilize group members towards a common goal. The term leader describes the person, whereas the term leadership describes the person's actions. Leadership is important because all groups need leadership in order to be successful. Successful leaders have strong communication skills and are skilled at balancing dialectic tensions associated with leadership. I interviewed my father, Anil, about his role at Amgen. Amgen is a biopharmaceutical company that is the largest independent biotech firm in the world. This basically means they develop drugs for a wide range of conditions. At Amgen, my dad held the position of principal scientist, which is the highest technical position for a scientist. There, he was part of different groups inherent to the corporate structure, which you'll see in any company. He led a group consisting of 3 other scientists and was also part of a group of scientists that reported to a common director. As such, he is familiar with both aspects of leadership and followership. My dad described an effective leader as someone who has an unwavering vision, which they truly believe and are passionate about. This would be something that they should be able to convince others of, and they should also be strong, respected, and even feared to a degree. Within a company like Amgen, all the leaders are designated leaders because they have been appointed based on their merits. This is contrasted with emerging leaders who gradually become leaders through their interaction with the group. As I stated earlier, Anil was directly involved in 2 groups, one which he led and one which he was a part of, led by director Jason. I examined both of these groups to determine what type of leadership powers Anil and Jason use. I determined both use legitimate power because they rely on the authority given to them by their job title. Both also use coercive and reward power as they have the ability to promote and fire individuals in their groups. As a scientist, Anil uses expert power because other scientists would come to him for advice, and he also uses informational power because he manages group projects and delegates work. Meanwhile, as a director, Jason used charismatic and persuasive powers because he was a skilled communicator and well-liked. Other than leadership power, another aspect of leadership our group discussed are theories regarding leadership. Different theories help leaders see what type of leader they are. The contingency model of leadership effectiveness helps leaders find a balance between being a task-motivated and relationship-motivated leader.
All right. Fred Fielder created the contingency model of leadership effectiveness to show that effective leadership occurs only when there's an ideal match between the leader's style and the situation of the group. When a leader knows their style, it's important for them to figure out how their style matches with the group. In this model, there are 3 different dimensions. First, leader-member relations. These relations can be positive, negative, or even neutral in the group. Second is task structure, which can range from extremely disorganized groups traits to highly driven group traits. And third is power, a leader's ability to motivate and influence others in order to complete a common goal. In Fielder's research, he finds that a task-motivated leader focuses more about the task at hand rather than building relationships with the group members. However, a relationship-motivated leader cares more about creating strong relationships with the group rather than the task at hand. For my interview, I interviewed Nikki Newbarth, the Chief Operating Officer of a salon professional product line called Unite Urotherapy. Her job for the company is to oversee and connect all departments, providing a various range of operations and procedures in order to better the company. First question I asked her is, what are the most effective ways to become a leader? And her response was, listening to the needs of the company and others along with being spoken with your opinions. Then I asked her what type of leadership power she used on a regular basis. She concurred with, my personal power falls more under the charismatic power by stating my energy, will, and passion in order to motivate my group for the company. And lastly, I asked her if her leadership role, based off the contingency model of leadership effectiveness, was bent more towards a relationship-motivated leader or a task-motivated leader. Her response was, I believe I'm a relationship-motivated leader. I like to find my group's strengths and weaknesses, ultimately building their weaknesses into their strengths in order to better the company's outcome. There's no single best style of leadership. According to Hersey Blanchard's situational leadership model, good leaders focus on more than just achieving their goals.
So now we're gonna be talking about the Hersey Blanchard situational leadership model. In this case, leaders are not just to be according to Paul, who is one of the ones who managed to create this situational leadership. There's two different styles of leadership. One of them is to either rest on leadership style, and the other one is to rest on individuals and how they are ready to work for the group. There's 4 different types of moments in which a group is ready. Usually this is more individual, but how a leader manages the situation has a lot to do with the outcome. For the first one, we have the talent stage. During the talent stage, it's when our members need the most amount of guidance. In this case, if someone's new, they will usually require someone to be there and explain step by step what's happening and what's going on. Most times it's because they are not confident enough and they have doubts about what's going on, and they need a little bit more guidance. In this stage as well, a leader has to know that the person needs more attention than those that have been there before or have experience of the such. For the second stage, we have the selling stage. For the selling stage, the person starts getting more confident and has a little bit more knowledge about what's going on. And in this case, the leader, what has to do is not as much tell him what to do, but to be there to support. It's in the point where the person will just let him know, like, oh, you're doing great, don't worry, and just like motivate, make this person more confident. For the third stage, we have the participating stage. In the participating stage, according to Hersey, he explains how the members are willing and more open to try new things. They have a little bit more confidence. If the leader gives too much guidance, the person feels like it's not hasn't done good enough, and in that case, it needs a little bit more. But when we're in this stage, the members, what they want and need, it's to let them be a little bit more free, and then they can feel like they have done good enough to earn this privilege, which is to have more freedom. And then lastly, we have the delegating stage, in which the participants and members are more able to work with the group itself. Therefore, when I was interviewing Mike Moran, who is the owner of Moran's Utility Service, he explained how his group has to delegate and work through different stages, just as the Blanchard theory. Most of the time, he says that there was, when there was someone new added into the group, in the company they only have 15 members, so everyone's very related and they have a lot of knowledge about what the other person's doing and how they're doing. So when they have someone new, they usually give them a little bit of time. It takes about 4 months to fully integrate someone to this group because they are so tight in self. So he was explaining how different leaders in itself, he considers himself not a designated leader because he's the owner of the company and it was not to vote, and it was just like he became the leader of the group itself once he decides like what someone is doing and what we're gonna be doing. But when they hire someone new, in this case, what they really want is to make sure that this person understands the programs they're using, and to make sure that it's not gonna be making any mistakes or errors. But leadership itself has so many different varieties, and it depends, and it's affected by its environment. Another type of theory used to describe how one leads is the functional leadership theory.
The functional leadership theory says that a leader's role is to do or finish whatever is not being handled by group needs. So rather than who a leader is, this functional theory focuses on what a leader does to help the group accomplish their task. I interviewed my dad, and Herman DeCow, who works for Northrop Grumman as a project manager for the Global Hawk, which is a UAV or an unmanned aircraft that is used overseas. And he's a project manager of a team of 15, and as a project manager with many people on his team, there are many people with different specializations and skills that he does not have. And because of this, he tries to actively support people taking charge at times that their specific skill is needed. As a designated leader, he still has to be the boss, but because of his temperament, he is able to take a back seat or at times in order to nurture the creativity and confidence of his group, allowing them to take the lead at times for the betterment of the team. There's also a model discussed in the chapter called the 5M model of leadership effectiveness. The 5 M's stand for model leadership, motivate members, manage group process, make decisions, and mentor members. Much of the subject matter discussed in my interview with my father pertained to this model. For model leadership, it's something that my dad is very big on, as he tries to build an environment where everyone is respected and can work in a comfortable environment built upon trust between him and his other team members. He also described times where he has had ditch his laid-back attitude to engage in image management, where he must appear charismatic and strong, and he admits that he's gotten better at acting throughout the years doing this, because he says that it's really all a front in the end, as long as you put on that face, you know. So motivating members or group members is a big part of keeping the team going, and my dad says that this is a big thing for him as he tries to keep members engaged and feel included, as well as using quarterly rewards that reward people based off of contributions, as well as making big contributions to certain projects and whatnot. Managing the group process is something that my dad described as the hardest part of his job, but he tries to maintain a focused work environment where organization and understanding of people's skills comes in handy. He does not like to micromanage, and this is where functional theory comes in. When things fall behind, the team comes together and gets things done without my dad having to micromanage them, allowing the members to have a little more freedom in how they do things and get things done. Now, making decisions for my father's group is usually handled in group discussion, unless there's something coming from higher up, because he's just a project manager, he does have superiors. If it's in that situation, he'll gather his group and discuss and explain why the decision was made and what went into making that decision. And lastly, mentoring members is very important to my dad, as he believes nurturing and mentoring members is one of the main things a leader should do. He said that you must encourage and guide everyone all in their own way, as everyone is very different. Now, diversity and leadership play a big part in how a group works together and how they interact with each other, such as how genders act or are looked at in the workforce.
Alright, so a quote in the book I found was, "Women and male leaders act the same. Women are perceived more negatively or have to act differently to gain leadership." For this, I interviewed my friend Randy, and he works at the YMCA. There he works with kids ranging from K through 6 after school. The first question I asked him is, how do you see leadership at your job? He answered me in two ways. First, I myself am